My name is Elaine Cozart, and I am a member of the worship committee, and it's my honor to share a reflection with you this morning. On Monday, December 7th, 2020, I received that call that none of us want to get from our doctor. You know, the one where they say, "You have cancer." The big C. In my case, it was a common form of breast cancer, the good kind, and that was a phrase that we emphasized a lot with our kids. But it was still cancer nevertheless, and something our family had become all too familiar with. Over the prior 2 years, my dad had battled lung and brain cancer. He was big and strong and tough. So he made it seem like it was no big deal, navigating appointments and treatments, but all of us hoped we would never have to deal with cancer. Little did I know he would pass away on that Saturday, 5 days after I received my diagnosis. You see, the day before I went in for a follow-up mammogram, ultrasound, and biopsy that would ultimately deliver the results of my health, he had gone into the hospital from a hemorrhagic stroke. Given his condition and the fact that I didn't know enough about my own, I hadn't told him in those last precious days that he had. And when he passed, I was just so glad he didn't know about my cancer. I share all of this to make the point that in this time of sadness and confusion, fear, shock, anxiety, and darkness, the last thing I wanted was to widen my circle. I was grieving my health and my dad, and it was 2020. We were in a pandemic. In my mind, my doctors had a solid treatment plan and the expectation that I would be cancer-free within a year. And as for support, I felt I had the people that I needed. First was my husband, Steve, and our son, Zachary, who could handle the household responsibilities when I didn't have the energy. Danny, our oldest child, was away at college and had almost zero needs from us at home. Second were my brother and sister, who insisted on driving me to and from my chemo appointments. And third were the friends who had already been through breast cancer treatment. And they were available to talk if and when I wanted, which was frequently. And by the way, I have 5 close friends who have been through breast cancer treatment. So again, I felt like my circle was very full. What I hadn't expected was the outpouring of generous offers of meals, transportation for our son who wasn't yet driving, rides for myself to appointments, and even gardening and house cleaning from family and friends, both near and far. And in addition to a desire to help, that community of loved ones wanted to know how I was doing. So to keep everyone informed, I created a Caring Bridge blog and shared it to my social media pages, posting updates about every other week to correspond with chemo treatments, and then only occasionally after that until I was finished with radiation. Interestingly, through all of this, I saw the circle continue to widen as more and more people wanted to know what was going on with me. And to manage the offers of meals, a close friend encouraged me to have a meal train schedule through chemo, which she managed. Between the Caring Bridge blog and the meal train, I saw my circle expanding, and I was again overwhelmed by the tremendous amount of love and encouragement. From the Caring Bridge posts, there were comments with "Wahoo!" as I would pass a milestone, or sending a virtual hug when I shared really intense feelings. And even words of gratitude from those who, through my experience, were getting a glimpse of what their loved ones might have gone through with a similar diagnosis. The meals we received were amazing, The wonderful donors not only brought main dishes, but they included side dishes, salads, and sometimes dessert and beverages. The food was comforting and it made us feel loved by family, friends, neighbors, and members of this congregation, some of which we didn't even know. The great news in all of this stuff is I've been cancer-free for nearly 14 months, and I can honestly say the experience, thank you. And I can honestly say that the experience, all of it, has made me stronger. And this is in part thanks to great medicine, but also for the widening of my circle, for which I will be forever grateful. Thank you.
I just want to take a moment to clarify that Marcia was prepared up until yesterday evening to do this service today and to deliver the sermon that she wrote today. So this is her sermon. I am just reading it. So when I say I or we, I mean Marcia and her we. So I could relate to it, though I was a drama kid also, as you might have guessed. I was so ready to be done with high school. I was not popular, though I had friends. Kind of like these last 2 weeks stuck at home with COVID, I was stuck in a beautiful place, but I was feeling stuck. And so I came to Portland, to Lewis and Clark, to go to college. And I met people I had more stuff in common with. And where the best place to meet folks was the theater. I took the introductory acting sequence my freshman year in college, and I met all the theater folk. I hung out there a lot over the next few years. It was a group of people who were good at drawing the circle wide. And of course they were. Theater departments in high school and college are known for being a place where the misfits or the queer kids or the weirdos fit in. It's a good place for the best readers and the slowest runners. Now, if you don't like theater, there are certainly other places for kids to fit in. Choir or band, the game club or computer club, places that focus on an activity, places where, if you have a little bit of talent, you can do well and you can find a place. And since many of the theater or band or choir or computer or game folks are not used to being at the top of the social heap, they're perhaps more willing to let people in. And church is like that too, especially Unitarian Universalist congregations. We tend to be full of people who perhaps just don't quite fit in the normal ways. We're a little different. And at our best, we take that difference and we embrace new folks. We welcome them in and invite them to be involved. We're friendly at coffee hour and welcome each person, each family to be who they are among us. And sometimes we do a great job at that. And sometimes we fall short. We've spoken the last few weeks about covenant and about values and about how UUs share values in common, and that helps us form a group cohesion in a place where we don't all believe the same things. We don't believe the same thing about religious topics. And we don't all believe in one God, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And we aren't all atheists either. So we gather together focusing on what we do believe in: kindness, justice, compassion, on working to make this world a better place, science and reason, and a little mystery and magic too. Our theme today is Draw the Circle Wide. We all have an idea about what that means. It means we invite new people to join us. And if you share our values and our liberal religion, you're welcome here. But there are wrong ways to go about widening the circle too. The first thing we have to be clear about is who and why we are. We have to stand firm in our values, our mission, and our vision. We gather together to invite community, to inspire spiritual growth, and to ignite action for justice. Now, there are a lot of ways that we can do that. We have Sunday services, that's our largest gathering place, and we have coffee hour afterwards, when it's safe to do so. And that's a place where we make folks feel welcome. We talk to our friends, sure, but if we're not greeting newcomers, they won't stay because it will feel like we're a closed circle that they can't break into. I remember one UU church we tried to attend in Rhode Island. We loved the services, the minister, and the music. They were a blue mug congregation, which means that they had blue mugs that they invited the newcomers specifically to use, so we'll know to greet you. Let me tell you, there is no lonelier feeling than standing by yourself in a busy coffee hour with a blue mug. And damn it, we were a lesbian couple in our 30s, and I was visibly pregnant. You'd have thought they'd be all over us. Part of drawing the circle wide is making people feel welcome just as they are. Talk to them, but don't ask awkward questions. Say, "We're so glad to see you. What brings you here today? What did you think of the service?" Those are good beginnings. And while we do have behavioral covenants, and it's important to have those, we need to make room for some folks at first to grow into it. That family that came a couple of weeks ago with the rambunctious kiddos, I know those boys didn't know how to behave in church yet, but I also know that their dad really needed a place to go where he could just be and listen to a service. Let's give some grace to folks who are new. We don't know what anyone is going through, and that's when we need to be extra patient. The largest Unitarian Universalist congregation is something called the CLF, or the Church of the Larger Fellowship. This is an online congregation and has been for years. It serves folks in geographically far-flung areas. It serves ministers who can't attend the churches that they used to serve but still live in the same area. It serves people who just can't attend on a Sunday morning but can watch a service online on a Sunday or Monday evening. And it serves incarcerated people. Over 1,600 incarcerated members who live behind prison walls all around this country. Through the CLF's Worthy Now prison network, they are able to provide programming for UUs who live in various forms of incarceration. In practice and on principle, they do not ask for financial stewardship from any of our incarcerated members. The programming offered to incarcerated UUs comes in the form of receiving a variety of printed material, correspondence classes in religious education and faith formation, and a pen pal network that helps incarcerated folks know that they aren't alone. This is drawing the circle wide, and this is what Unitarian Universalism is about. We will never attract folks if the only reasons we want to grow are to have more money and more volunteers. No one is attracted to desperation. We will grow if we are clear on who we are and what makes us a place to build community, grow spiritually, and act for justice. We have so many ways to do that, from our social groups to our choir, to the worship associates and RE teachers, the Hope Food Pantry, Feed the Hungry, Sun programs. And this year, we're restarting fellowship dinners and covenant circles and Second Sunday, second hour. We have chances for folks to get together for socializing, for learning, and for growing. But there are all sorts of places in our society that offer the same benefits as a church. How many of you have heard of osmosis? Casting back to high school for me, I don't know. Okay, at its most basic, osmosis is where something, usually a liquid, goes through a semi-permeable membrane to equalize a solution. The most common example of osmosis is in cells. Through the process of osmosis, the amount of water in a cell increases or decreases to even the level of salt within it, so that the salt within the cell and outside the cell is the equal amount. This is why you get thirsty when you eat salty food. Just saying salty food, maybe. This is the circle that is the church. Like water that can come into and out of the cell, depending upon the salinity level of what is outside, people can come into or out of the church, depending on their own needs and desires, and on our creation of a welcoming environment. In the cell analogy, we have to think of salt as these things we long for deeply: community, spiritual depth, hope, and the chance to contribute. In a world that is lacking these things, where the salinity of the organism is stronger, people will be drawn to us. They want to be a part of what we have. But if we treat each other badly, if we don't welcome people well, if we turn on our own people and are out of covenant with them, then it's too salty in here, and they will filter away. And in a world with so many options, from Netflix to Meetup to soccer games, people are sometimes so overwhelmed that it's easier to just sit on the couch and stare into their phones. But I believe that most of us are actually longing for meaning, for kindness, for that moment of waving the car in front of you to pass, or saying, "Bless you," to a stranger. We are so far, in the words of Demusha Lemaris, from tribe and fire. Church is such a good place to find that, these moments where we are especially trying to be kind, where we thank each other for our labor, where we listen to music and celebrate it, where we share coffee and cookies together, where we contribute to meaningful work, and where we might help someone else's kid carve a pumpkin, or do an art project, or learn about religion and values, and where we share our own tender, vulnerable, and meaningful stories. The advantage for cells undergoing osmosis is that it's obvious when there's more salt inside or outside the cell. But here in church, it can be less obvious what happens inside these walls. And so, friends, the best way to let folks know about what goes on in here is to tell people. I know some of you do this already. I remember Sheila telling me for a couple of years that they had neighbors who would just love this place and that they were working on them. Joan and John Young came here because Sheila and Chuck kept talking us up. Who could you talk to this week? If you found something good here, if you have found something good here, who would you like to share that with? Not because we need their money or their volunteerism or to be able to say that we have a big church, but because we've got something worth sharing. Rebecca Parker, the former president of Starr King Seminary in the Bay Area, wrote a poem called "Choose to Bless the World." I'm going to share that with you here. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, to bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can be used to draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthetization, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world live their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and for this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude, to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. More, the choice will draw you into community. The endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting. If we are going to draw the circle wide, my friends, we must know why we want to and what is in our circle. I would suggest that the meaning is found in those words by Rebecca Parker. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting. Let us go forth into this world with joy and wonder, drawing a circle wide and welcoming enough for all who freely chose to enter. The world needs us, and we need each other. Blessed be, and amen.